The console version of Rust is half video game, half slideshow. That's right, today we are going to be going over how the console version of Rust feels on an Xbox One. Now, before we get into it, you've got to understand that the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X are basically a different version of Rust. That version of Rust actually does run fairly smoothly. There's still crashes, there's still issues, there's still things that go wrong, but overall it feels okay. If, though, you are playing on a last-gen console, which they still did sell the game for, you are going to have issues, and we're going to get into that. So here's what happens. With Rust, you've got sort of your beginning game. That's where you're building, just sort of setting yourself up. You got your mid-game where you're running monuments, maybe getting into some minor skirmishes with people, and then you've got your end game, and that's where you're using the big guns, you're getting all the good loot, and you're really rocking and rolling. Well, the closer you get to end game, the closer you get to having paid $60 for a slideshow. So here's how it works. When you get into the game Rust, everything seems to be running smoothly. You will have some FPS drops on an Xbox One or base console. What you're dealing with here is you're going to maybe like 20 FPS at times. There will be some lag and stuff like that. And when I say drops, usually it's frame drops. So what happens is the game just sort of drops frames and you're sort of stuck wherever you are on the map. This is incredibly annoying because it means that you are likely to get killed when this happens. If someone's trying to line up for the perfect headshot, the fact that you're not moving makes that headshot so much easier. But the thing here is it doesn't happen super often and you still feel somewhat competent in PvP. I equate this to being on sort of a, 150 ping, 200 ping server when everyone else is playing at like 10. It's not the best experience. Things still go wrong, but overall the game's still playable. When you get to the building aspect of things, here things seem to just sort of work, right? You can build, you can do everything that you would normally be able to do with any sort of console or on any version of Rust. The problem really comes when you start getting into gunfights, and it doesn't matter if you're the one with the gun or your enemy's the one with the gun. So if you're trying to snowball with a bow, this is where it gets hard because what happens is the second a gun goes off, and I'm not 100% sure why it is, the game just starts lagging. Things start going badly. Once a gun fires, once guns shots start being registered, it lags and you're basically watching a slideshow at this point. You might as well take your hands off the controller and watch the cutscene of yourself dying because that is all you are going to experience. That is the Rust experience and that is endgame for you if you own an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 and you buy this current iteration of Rust. It is an extremely horrible experience in my opinion, and if you like building, if you like role-playing, the game is great. If you like just running monuments and sort of experiencing what some of your favorite YouTubers are doing, I'm assuming Waylon, Blueprint, like not me basically, your favorite YouTubers, your favorite Rust YouTubers. I want to make that clear. I'm not some sort of egomaniac. Anyways, if you like that, right, then you'll get it still, right? You'll still be able to get into some primitive fights. Maybe you can get an Ioka. Maybe you can even make things work with a shotgun. You'll still have your chance of that. But once you get beyond that, once you get to automatic guns, semi-automatic guns, it gets hard. A lot of people I've noticed on last-gen consoles, they will literally take out a gun, start shooting, and then they'll switch back to a bow and arrow or a spear because their experience is better and their aim is better with these weapons. That is essentially breaking endgame. And that's something that means you're not really going to get that sort of like push to put a ton of hours into it because the game just doesn't feel complete. And yet, I mean, that's sort of the console experience. We can go into a lot of the build mechanics and everything like that, but honestly, the base of the game does feel right. Like the way you build feels right. The way PvP works feels right. Recoil feels pretty good, especially for a controller. There are some issues around people using mouse and keyboard. You can notice this in the way people move. Some people are moving way too accurately for a controller. I don't know if they're just gods among men, but most likely they're cheating. There are some issues with that, and there are some like annoying things that happen with that, but the main problem with the console version of Rust is that slideshow you get once you start getting towards endgame, and also if your server does get too populated, you will start to lag. What this is basically people are planting too many pumpkins, they're putting down too many bases, they're doing too many weird things in a small confined area, and it's causing issues for you. Now, there are some fixes, so if you're part of the dev team, this is what I'd recommend. For guns, for shooting, for everything like that, remove those animations, okay? That flash that happens when someone fires a gun probably doesn't need to happen. You take that out, game's going to run a little bit better, okay? At least the PvP version of it. And with pumpkins, set a maximum number of pumpkins that can be planted in one area. When I go to Bandit Camp and there's literally hundreds and hundreds of pumpkins, it causes that whole area to be unusable for me. Anyways, overall, would I recommend that you buy Rust if you're on a last-gen console? My recommendation is no. The game currently doesn't run the way it should be. Honestly, looking at it from my point of view, I'm probably going to upgrade to a Series S just so I can play Rust and make content for you guys, just to give you an idea of how bad it is. And yeah, it's just not the game it should be on last gen consoles. And what you're going to be getting is an experience where you can interact with some of the mechanics, you can do some of the things that you love about the game, but your end game is going to be extremely frustrating. And if you're okay with that, maybe you should buy it. But for $60, it's a steep price to pay for a game that is basically half a game and half a slideshow. Thank you so much for watching. I'm not going to drag this out. So hit subscribe if you want to hear more Rust videos from me. I'm going to be coming out with tips and tricks and everything like that. So yeah, stay tuned.